Well, let's work on a signature here. I've been working with Craig's images here this morning, so I thought, well, let's use Craig's name. So what we do is we just type Craig, or whatever name we want to have. And I'm using a Bickley script font. Some kind of script or a hand lettering type font works well. There's an architecture font that looks good. There's an ink burrow that looks pretty good. Anything that's a signature. That's kind of a script handwriting. You can even use your own handwriting if you have a nice signature and take a picture of it with a digital camera or scan it. And once you get it in, do it as large as you can. You can always downsize it, but at least you've got it large for larger files. And then what we do is we just select the text that we're working on. Up at the top menu, we select Warp Text from the text menu. And using the different options, there's 3 different sliders. We can bend it, warp it, distort it, and just play with it. Play with it until you kind of get it the way you like it. I'm going to select just the first character here, which I thought was going to bend just the first one, but it still appears to bend all of them, so it didn't really seem to make any difference. But I'm just still playing with it a little bit. And starting to look kind of neat there. And then I'll click OK. Now at this point, we can see that the layer is fairly flat looking. It's just black and white. So what we're going to do is double click on the layer itself, not the name, but the layer, which brings up the layer style options. And there's a whole bunch of different options here that we can apply, such as drop shadow. And you see the shadow appear, and then we can play with the options over here, like the distance, and the spread of the shadow, and the size of the shadow. Even the light direction is over there on the angle, and then the opacity as well, which you can make the shadow completely transparent or opaque, so you can control that. We can click Bevel and Emboss, and this gives us a nice 3D type of look. We can play with the depth, the size, and even the direction of the light. There's lots of different angles and different effects that you can apply to it here. One neat one to play with is the gloss contour itself. This would be the contour of the text. So we just click several and take a look, and oh, that one looks pretty neat. So we'll just keep that. Click OK. Click OK again, and now we got a pretty neat looking signature, a nice logo. And the effects will appear here in the layer palette. You'll see the drop shadow and bevel emboss and emboss, and if you click on those, you'll bring up those options again, so you can tweak any of the effects options that you've added to it. Now we were zoomed out, so it looked a little rough, but as we zoom in, you can see it's really quite smooth and quite nice. I'm going to shrink it again. And as you can see, it's running downhill. Generally, a signature should run uphill. If you study any type of signature recognition or personality traits from signatures, you'll always find that they say that an uphill running signature is more pleasant and means that you're a happier person. But it just feels right. So we just bent it by selecting it and dragging it and rotating it a little bit so it runs uphill. Now we really got a nice signature. Also, after you've selected it, you can stretch it, shrink it, make it taller or shorter, and just play with its effects that way. But the problem is it's just on a white background. So we want to turn off the effects because we want to be able to pull it off and put it on a picture. So you'd want to save it like this as a TIFF, and when you go to use it, call up Select Color Range, sample the color, which is black, and select just the black color range. Now we're going to do a copy, which simply copies it off from the white background, and we're going to bring in our desired photograph. This photograph's a little large for the size window I have recording here, so I'm going to just move it over a little bit. And now we're going to do a paste, and it will appear as a layer. Now it's really quite large because we made it in a large size. It's too large for this small image. If this was a large full-size image, it would look about right. So we'll just grab the corner and reduce it to the size that's comfortable for this image. And we can also make it tall or fat or long, or apply those effects as well just by dragging the corner. But now it's pretty dark there. So what we want to do is apply our effects. So we're going to click on the layer, and we can even turn on gradient, which adds a nice gradient to it. That's a nice easy way to just finish it up fast. But let's turn that off. And instead, let's go up to the image. We have the text layer selected. We're going to go up to Hue Saturation, and we're going to play with the lightness, the saturation to turn up color, and we're going to colorize it by clicking the Colorize box. And now we can make it any color we want, so that we can make it use the colors of the background. So we'll pick something kind of gold here. Turn up the color, turn down the brightness. And that looks pretty good with it. Now we want to apply the effects, so we're going to double click on the layer itself and bring up the layer style again. We're going to apply the drop shadow. You can do outer glow, which tends to look a little corny, so I don't use that very often. And then bevel and emboss, which I use a lot. Again, you can play with the depth options and the gloss contours. You can resize it. Make it run up and down by just dragging it. And then we're going to play with the levels just a little bit on this layer. You can bring it way up nice and bright. I'm going to bring it down so it goes better with the background. Now we got those nice rust colors. And the other thing is sometimes it stands out too much, so just go up to the opacity of the layer and you can make it completely transparent or totally opaque. And sometimes just making it slightly transparent, maybe 80% or so, just subdues it a little bit so it doesn't jump out at you. And then we can flatten the image, and the signature is now part of the original image. And that's all there is to it. That's how to add your signature to your work.